On the day of the race, my wife gave away my race car, the only one of its kind in the world, to her little assistant. The assistant driving my car flaunted it on social media. "Driving a one-of-a-kind race car is awesome. Thank you, Miss Hawthorne, for the car to make my dream come true. I love you the most." I clenched my jaw, my face cold, and called Victoria. "Who gave you permission to give my race car to someone else?" Victoria scoffed, utterly unconcerned. "It's not like you're short one car. There's still that Ford in the garage. It drives just fine." "You have a pile of medals. You don't need this one." "But Julian's dream must come true. Don't go looking for trouble." Burning with rage, I gritted my teeth and warned her, "In 10 minutes I want to see my car returned, completely undamaged." Victoria casually replied, "That piece of junk of yours nearly got Julian into an accident. I've already had it smashed to pieces. Want it? Go pick it out of the junkyard yourself." With that, she hung up. 10 minutes later, Julian Jenkins was thrown into a junkyard, his legs broken. At the same time, Hawthorne Corp's assets, worth billions of dollars, were frozen, and the company faced bankruptcy. Since some people don't know what's good for them, I'll show them that there are people you can't afford to provoke. Chapter 1. When David Miller dragged a bloody Julian Jenkins before me, his legs a mess, I was sitting on the sofa at the base, toying with a medal symbolizing victory. Julian Jenkins's once fair and clean-cut face was now a patchwork of bruises, all its former polish gone. His legs were broken, forcing him to lie on the ground like a dog, yet his gaze towards me remained fierce. His words a threat. "Sincere Clark, how dare you lay a hand on me if Vicky knew?" "Ah." Annoyed, I shot David Miller a look. He immediately stomped on Julian Jenkins's hand, grinding his heel back and forth. Julian Jenkins's agonized screams echoed throughout the base. I threw the medal in front of him, grabbed his hair, and yanked his head back hard, forcing him to meet my gaze. "Even with a Ford, I still won gold. And you, a good-for-nothing will always be a good-for-nothing." He grimaced in pain, but his eyes, fixed on me, were still venomous. "That car was a gift from Vicky. Vicky said I could do whatever I wanted with it, even smash it." He roared and struggled, but his struggles only pulled at his scalp, causing him more pain. I sneered, tightening my grip on his hair. "A gift to you? Open your damn eyes and see clearly. This is my race car, the only one in the world. One of a kind." With that, I picked up another trophy and smashed it hard against him. The base was filled with trophies I'd won in competitions all over the world. All of them honors earned with that car, now reduced to fragments. More importantly, this car was left to me by my brother before he died. Julian Jenkins' eyes still held disdain and contempt, fearless and ignorant. He spat a mouthful of bloody saliva at me, his eyes sinister. "You treat me like this. Aren't you afraid Vicky will get angry? Just you wait. Vicky will blacklist you, make sure you can never race again." I clicked my tongue impatiently. Did he really think I needed Victoria Hawthorne to afford a race car and enter competitions? An ignorant good-for-nothing. Wasting my time confronting him made me feel stupid. I turned away, no longer looking at him, and waved my hand dismissively at David Miller, instructing, "Since he still won, admit he's wrong. Take him to the water and let him think things over clearly." David Miller lifted him with one hand. Only then did Julian Jenkins start to panic and shout, "Sincere, stop it. If Vicky finds out, she'll kill you." Seeing no one paid him any mind, he struggled and yelled again, Vicky will come back and save me. I'll kill you all." Before he could finish, he was thrown into the swimming pool. His legs useless, he could only struggle desperately to move towards the edge. "What are you doing? Stop it." Chapter 2. An angry female voice rang out, breathless from running. Victoria Hawthorne, not even bothering with shoes, jumped straight into the water and pulled Julian Jenkins out. Her impeccably styled hair was soaked. Heedless of her own disheveled state, she hugged Julian Jenkins tightly. Only after the people she'd brought with her had lifted Julian Jenkins onto a stretcher did she have a moment to look at me. Victoria Hawthorne, furious, roared at me. "What the hell is wrong with you? Are you even human? It was just a stupid car. Aren't there enough cars in your garage for you to drive? Julian is still young. Are you trying to ruin him? Can you stop being so unreasonable? She destroyed my car for a toy boy, nearly ruined my race, and she dares to call me unreasonable. Moreover, this was the only memento my brother left me." I sneered, staring at her without blinking. "Victoria, when you gave my car to that toy boy without my permission, did you ever think about the consequences? I've been too good to you these past 2 years. Have you forgotten who I am?" Her face, initially flushed with anger, froze. Her color gradually drained. Meanwhile, Julian Jenkins, thinking his savior had arrived, dared to shout at me again as soon as he was out of the water. "A piece of junk, what's so great about it, ha? I bet you don't know. I dismantled your precious car piece by piece into a pile of scrap metal." My eyes grew colder, a humorless smile playing on my lips as I looked at Victoria. Seeing my expression, she instantly knew my anger had reached its peak. "Shut up, apologize to Sincere immediately," Victoria snapped at him. Julian Jenkins's unfinished words caught in his throat, and he stared at her in disbelief. After meeting Victoria's gaze, he finally lowered his head and said grudgingly, "I'm sorry, Mr. Clark." I glanced at them, then turned to leave, tossing a final remark over my shoulder. "Even if it's in pieces, find every single one, or else—" There was no need to finish the sentence. They were already drenched in sweat. After I turned away, Victoria immediately helped Julian Jenkins up, tenderly wiping the water from him, her eyes filled with a gentleness I had never experienced. A pang of bitterness twisted in my heart. After I inherited the family business, Victoria Hawthorne, with whom I'd lost contact for nearly 10 years, suddenly sought me out. She stood before me, disheveled, still wearing the thin clothes she had on when she was kicked out of the Hawthorne family. Yet her eyes, as she looked at me, were full of determination. "Mr. Clark, you're the only one who can help me reclaim Hawthorne Corp now. I'm begging you." I couldn't refuse her. I married her and helped her regain control of Hawthorne Corp. Over the years, I watched her transform herself from a delicate young woman into the formidable Ms. Hawthorne, a name that struck fear into people. I thought our feelings for each other had naturally deepened, but I never imagined she would personally destroy the memento my brother left me. All for a junior assistant racing was just to fulfill my brother's wish. But to bring them down, I have another identity. Chapter 3. Back home, I looked at the fragments of the race car, now returned to the garage, and gently stroked them. A stinging sensation pricked my nose. I had failed to protect my brother's memento. I had been too quick to believe in Victoria's sincerity. After a moment's thought, I had my lawyer deliver the signed divorce papers to Victoria. After all these years together, I couldn't bring myself to cut ties with her completely. She knew this was the last chance I was giving her. If she got rid of Julian Jenkins and he never appeared in our lives again, we could still reconcile. Unfortunately, after being so clever for so many years, she was now determined to hit this brick wall. She didn't come back all night. This was her protest. And her answer. Early the next morning, David Miller rushed over and handed me a list. "Mr. Clark, on the list of key personnel for the North Side project, the overall head is Julian Jenkins." I frowned and took the list, examining it closely. Apart from Julian Jenkins, everyone on the list was, without exception, a top talent in the industry. Yet they were all subordinate to someone with a middle school education and no practical skills whatsoever. Miss Hawthorne also said that everyone on the North Side project must listen to Julian Jenkins. His word is Hawthorne Corp's word. I was so angry I almost laughed. My eyes grew darker, and I coldly instructed David Miller. "Notify everyone that effective immediately the North Side project is suspended. All funding and resources provided to Hawthorne Corp are to be withdrawn." David Miller hesitated, then said cautiously, "But Mr. Clark, if we do this, Madam's problems might not be resolved." "Enough talk, just do it." I gave him a cold look, and he immediately retreated to prepare the documents. Half an hour later, we arrived at the Hawthorne Corp headquarters. As soon as I stepped into the executive office area on the top floor, a wave of sycophantic voices drifted over. A mere North Side project? If I want it, Miss Hawthorne would give me the moon. That controlling old man can't hold on to Miss Hawthorne's heart, voices chimed in, flattering him. That just shows how capable Julian is. Miss Hawthorne went against everyone to put you in charge. That's a first for this company. The way Miss Hawthorne treats you is so enviable. Is this true love? Julian Jenkins's face grew increasingly smug. We're truly in love. The one who isn't loved in the relationship is the third wheel. My frown deepened, my face so cold it could have chipped ice. She gave up on me, gave up on the company's biggest project. For this ignorant and idiotic good for nothing? David Miller, noticing the change in my expression, strode forward and kicked hard at Julian Jenkins's only good leg. He was knocked to the ground, raging impotently. Which bastard dares to touch me? When I get up, I'll make you all pay. After shouting for a while and realizing no one was helping him up, he struggled to his feet with his crutch. Turning his head, he saw me staring at him, my face like frost. His face instantly turned a fascinating mix of pale and red. I shot a look, and David Miller viciously kicked that leg twice more, until Julian Jenkins collapsed on the ground, unable to get up. David Miller handed me his crutch. I used the end of it to tilt Julian's chin up, forcing him to look at me, a cold smile on my face. I'm giving you a chance to kill me now. Why don't you make a move? Julian Jenkins's eyes were bloodshot. He gritted his teeth but didn't dare utter a word of rebuttal. Victoria Hawthorne, drawn by the commotion outside, saw this scene and immediately rushed to Julian Jenkins, helping him solicitously into a chair. Only after doing all this did she give me a displeased look. What is this madness? I looked at her, my tone light. Your little assistant was provoking me in public. Did you teach him that? Lost all respect for me so quickly? Victoria coughed and explained, Of course not. It's just that this is a public place after all. Apart from Julian Jenkins, the other employees had already made themselves scarce. I looked at Victoria, my expression blank, and asked, The divorce papers, when will you sign them? Chapter 4. Victoria sat across from me, her tone gentle. Sincere, don't say such things in anger. I know you're angry because of Julian, but I assure you, Julian's talent and abilities make him perfectly capable of being the project head. He's still young and inexperienced. If we give him this chance, he can grow better. She tugged at the corner of my sleeve, just like when we first met years ago, looking at me with those clear eyes. Sincere, there's nothing between him and me. You're the only one who's ever been in my heart. I pulled my sleeve from her grasp, a sarcastic sneer playing on my lips. Victoria, you promised me to listen to me on company matters. Are you sure you want to completely fall out with me over this good for nothing? Her face grew paler, but she refused to yield. I completely lost patience and ordered David Miller, throw Julian Jenkins out of Hawthorne Corp. He's never to set foot in this building again. Spread the word, blacklist him throughout the industry. Anyone who hires him can forget about doing business in Riverdale. Julian Jenkins suddenly burst into tears, throwing himself at Victoria's feet, wailing, Miss Hawthorne, it's all my fault for dragging you down. Don't oppose Mr. Clark for my sake. I'm not worth it. If my departure can help you two reconcile, I'll leave Riverdale immediately and never appear before you again in this lifetime. Julian Jenkins, speaking up for her between sobs, completely swayed her wavering heart. She hugged Julian Jenkins tightly, looking as if she couldn't bear to lose him. After letting go, she looked directly at me, her eyes filled only with anger and determination. Sincere, leave some room for maneuver. We might meet again, don't push me. I couldn't help but feel a pang of bitterness. So many years of affection, so many years of mutual trust, now so easily shattered by a few words from someone else. I sneered, casting aside the last shred of affection I had for her, and instructed David Miller, inform the entire city from this day forward, Clark Industries will refuse all cooperation with Hawthorne Corp. Effective immediately. All funding is to cease. Victoria stared at me in disbelief, her eyes wide. The North Side project is crucial for Hawthorne Corp's IPO, you know that? She swallowed the rest of her words, biting her lower lip resentfully. A project crucial for the IPO, and you still let a good-for-nothing be in charge? I gave you more than one chance. You brought all of this on yourself. You bear the consequences. I had thought that after this, they would behave themselves. But Victoria seemed determined to oppose me to the very end. Not only did she continue to let Julian Jenkins lord it over everyone at the company, but she also directly put him in charge of all important projects. Since she clearly didn't care about saving face, I didn't need to offer it anymore. After the acquisition agreement was signed, Victoria burst into the trading floor. Her face was icy as she rushed over, bombarding me with questions. What right do you have to acquire Hawthorne Corp? That's my life's work. Your brother has been dead for years. Are you going to keep this up endlessly over that stupid car? I've put up with you for a long time. Don't be shameless when I'm trying to be polite. Listening to her accusations and curses, my eyes grew colder and colder. I'd shown her some genuine affection over the years, and she'd really started to think she was something special. Forgetting who was really in charge in this relationship, Victoria, don't you know what kind of place this is to act so outrageously? My voice was still light, but every word carried immense pressure. I gave you a choice. Your choice wasn't me. Suddenly, Julian Jenkins rushed from a corner to the front of the reporter's cameras, his eyes red and kowtowed. To me, I'm sorry, Mr. Clark, it's all my fault. I'm useless and unworthy of working at Hawthorne Corp. It's my mistake. I shouldn't have offended your sight. But Ms. Hawthorne is truly devoted to you. How could you destroy the career she worked so hard to build? His eyes were red-rimmed, yet his expression was like that of a resilient weed, suffering injustice but unyielding. A pity for such good acting talent, just the wrong stage. But his few words threw the scene into an uproar. A group of reporters seized the chance to thrust their microphones in my face, asking sharp questions. Mr. Clark, do you agree with him and admit to workplace bullying against ordinary people? Mr. Clark, we hear your brother's death was related to you. Do you have any explanation for that? Clark Industries' acquisition of Hawthorne Corp today, was it as rumored, achieved through improper means? Sharp questions rained down on me. In the pushing and shoving, I caught a glimpse of Julian Jenkins's smug smile. Suddenly, Victoria threw a stack of photos in front of me and, waving the documents in her hand, shouted, I have evidence here that Mr. Clark murdered his own brother to seize the inheritance. I glanced at the photos on the floor and scoffed. To bring me down, she even dared to fabricate this and pin it on me? She was the one who knelt on the ground, begging me to clean up her mess back then. Watching this little drama she and Julian Jenkins had orchestrated, a smile touched my lips. Since she likes to play with fire, let's make the fire burn even brighter. As for the outcome, she and Julian Jenkins will only end up getting burned, with no chance of recovery. Chapter 5. The crystal chandelier in the trading hall shattered into a million specks of light overhead. A dozen cameras on tripods swiveled their lenses like mechanical octopuses, and the flashbulbs flared so intensely that Victoria's meticulously applied makeup seemed about to melt. As she charged forward, waving the forged autopsy report, her 4-inch heels screeched across the marble floor, a sound horribly reminiscent of her tearing up my race car designs in my study 3 years ago. Sincere you did it, but you don't dare admit it. Her voice cracked, mascara mixed with sweat streaking her cheekbones. That bottle of whiskey you personally delivered to your brother before he crashed into the C-Lab tests found excessive amounts of melatonin in it. I bent down to pick up the photos she'd thrown, my thumb brushing over the gilded words on the forgery autopsy report of Saxon Clark, CEO of Clark Industries. I suddenly burst out laughing. This shoddy stack of A4 paper. They couldn't even get my brother's name right. Saxon is my English name. My brother was Ethan. I pulled a fountain pen from my inner suit pocket and tapped its nib on my brother's funeral portrait in one of the photos. 5 years ago, you knelt at my office door for 6 hours. The blood blisters your knees got from the marble floor are still on the inside of your left knee, aren't they?" I looked up at her deathly pale face. "You said then that Hawthorne Corp was about to be shorted by old shareholders, and you begged me to use Clark Industries' overseas accounts for bridge financing. How quickly you forget." Victoria stumbled backward, crashing into the champagne tower behind her, which collapsed with a roar. Julian Jenkins scrambled to help her, then turned to confront me. "You usurped your own brother's position, murdered him, and now you look down on the worthless life of a commoner like me. Now you even want to swallow Hawthorne Corp whole to expand your own company. Vicky has been deceived by you from start to finish all these years." I watched Victoria calmly, a smile on my face as I asked her, "I deceived you all these years? Tell me yourself, is that true?" She looked flustered, but after composing herself, she retorted, "You married me for our Hawthorne family's assets, didn't you? You had ulterior motives from the start. And I trusted you so much all these years, even gave you the majority of the company's shares." As she spoke, she even began to choke up. This charade reminded me of last month in the garage. She dismissed the mechanic servicing my car just like this, simply because he'd said, "The carbon fiber panel on this car is a limited edition, madam. Please be careful not to damage it." Then, when she saw me, she hypocritically blamed the mechanic. "All right then, how about this?" I nodded to the technical director, and a yellowed PDF file appeared on the giant screen. "Article 10 of the marital addendum you signed 5 years ago. Should party B Victoria Hawthorne commit adultery or transfer marital assets during the marriage, party a sincere Clark will automatically acquire 51% of Hawthorne Corp's shares." My gaze swept over her trembling fingertips. I chuckled softly. "Shall I repeat what you said when you put your thumbprint on it? Sincere, I will never betray you in my life." She suddenly spun around and grabbed Julian Jenkins by his tie, her nails digging into his throat. "Didn't you say this was foolproof? That the evidence was destroyed long ago?" The young man's white shirt was instantly soaked with cold sweat, his Adam's apple bobbing under her fingertips like a dying fish. I waved my phone, pulling up last night's surveillance footage, 2 a.m. in the Hawthorne Corp underground garage. Julian Jenkins was stuffing bundles of cash into a black Porsche. The woman in the passenger seat was applying Dior 999 lipstick. That was Wendy Young, his fiancée of 3 years, for whom he'd received a $120,000 bride price. 6. "Vicky, this is all fake. You know I only love you sincere. That bastard forged all of this." Julian Jenkins's tearful voice trembled. His knees had barely touched the ground when Victoria kicked him away. She stared at the woman on screen, stroking the back of his neck, suddenly remembering what he'd said in her office last week. "Vicky, your earlobes are the softest, like kissing cotton candy." When security guards entered with the police, Victoria was grabbing Julian Jenkins by the hair and smashing his head against a display stand. The acrylic panel shattered into sharp fragments, gashing her wrist. "Sincere, look," she rushed over, holding up her bleeding hand. "I was at your brother's race when he died. He was shouting your name even as he died. Ha ha ha." I grabbed her wrist, fiercely, holding it until she crumpled in pain. "So you finally admit it." I pulled a sealed bag from my inner suit pocket. Inside was half a broken fingernail. "The police found this in my brother's wrecked car. It's an exact match for the manicure you had back then." "How could you be so venomous? He was my only family." Her pupils contracted violently, and she made a guttural sound like a strangled animal. Julian Jenkins seized the chance to crawl towards the door, but was grabbed by the collar by a police officer. A message had just arrived on his phone from his fiancée, Wendy. "Julian Jenkins, you useless scum, what happened to the bride price money in my account? If you don't get it back, we're breaking up." The dome of the trading hall was high, and their screams sounded as if they were coming from the bottom of a well. As I watched Victoria being dragged away, one of her high heels flew off and landed at my feet. It was the birthday gift I'd given her last year. Engraved on the inside of the heel was "For my racer." Now the heel was snapped in two, like her shattered facade. 7. The open-air swimming pool on the top floor of Hawthorne Corp., once her favorite place. Now the water was polluted and stank, with photos of her and Julian Jenkins floating in it. David Miller said that when the employees threw them in this morning, they also tossed in a handful of salt. Mr. Clark, Miss Hawthorne has been on a hunger strike at the detention center for 3 days. On the documents David Miller handed over, Hawthorne Corp's balance sheet was a glaring red. Julian Jenkins's fiancée, Wendy Young, has revealed 3 more transfers to accounts belonging to his other lovers and illegitimate children. I twirled my pen. Its tip pausing on the approval form for the Hawthorne Tower exterior wall advertising space. Change it to a poster of my brother's race car, the one where he's on the podium, champagne spraying from the car. I remembered being in the evidence room last week, watching workers piece together the wreckage of the race car. The carbon fiber fragments glinted coldly under the lights, like the shattered windshield of my brother's car in his final race, struck by a stone. The visitation room at the detention center smelled of disinfectant mixed with stale food. Victoria was curled up on a plastic chair, her once expensively styled hair, which probably cost a fortune, now greasy and matted to her scalp. The wound on her wrist hadn't healed, covered by a dark red scab. Sincere, she reached out to touch me, but the iron bars blocked her. "Why did you harm my brother?" Victoria looked helpless and said in a low voice, "The 30 million my father embezzled back then, your brother forced him to do it. He said he would expose my miscarriage, said I couldn't even have children." "Your miscarriage?" I sneered, pulling out a document and throwing it in her face. "The tubal ligation you had at a private clinic in the 2nd year of our marriage, the medical records are still in my safe." "How did you know?" Seeing the terror in her eyes, I suddenly found it all tedious. "The birth control pills Julian Jenkins gave you? I had the doctor swap them for vitamins. Did you think he was coaxing you to take them every night because he truly wanted a future with you? He was afraid you'd go looking for evidence of his embezzlement in the middle of the night. Fool." She suddenly started laughing, louder and louder, startling the sparrows outside the window. "So that's how it was? Ha. I thought he genuinely cared for me, but he had ulterior motives all along." She looked at me, her eyes filled with despair and desolation. "Sincere, to tell you the truth, your brother's race car can never be fully repaired. I had someone plant a tracker among those fragments. If you ever dare to take it onto the track," I shot up, the iron chair scraping harshly against the floor. "So all those times before when I'd skid and lose control, it was Victoria's doing all along. She had personally pushed me to the brink of death time and time again. Victoria, do you know what's the most disgusting part? When my brother had his accident, his wedding gift for you was in the passenger seat. He never once tried to stand in our way." As I turned to leave, I heard her heart-wrenching cry from behind me. "Sincere, I'm sorry, forgive me." On the day of the trial, a sudden downpour began, just like the weather at my brother's funeral. Victoria walked in wearing a prison uniform, the chains on her ankles clinking. It was a replica of the custom Van Cleef Arpels anklet she'd had made last year, only this one was iron. The defendant, Victoria Hawthorne, is charged with conspiracy to murder Ethan Clark, illegal transfer of marital assets, falsification of evidence. The judge's voice echoed in the spacious courtroom. Julian Jenkins suddenly stood up, his shoulders still trembling beneath his prison uniform. "Your Honor, I'm innocent. Victoria forced me to do it. When she told me to dismantle the race car, she said if we destroyed Sincere's attachment to it, she could take over Clark Industries." Victoria suddenly lunged at him, digging her nails into his neck. "You're just a freeloading bastard. Why didn't you say that when you took my $5 million in hush money? Why didn't you say that when you were telling me you loved me in bed?" As the bailiffs pulled them apart, Julian Jenkins' collar was torn, revealing a tattoo below his collarbone. It was Victoria's initials, VH, except hidden between the V and H was a small Y, the initials of his fiancée, Wendy Young. I looked at my brother's former teammate in the witness box. He tremblingly held up the evidence found in the car back then. The serrated marks on this clasp could only have been made by the cutting machine at the Hawthorne Corp docks. Rain streamed down the courtrooms. Glass windows, casting distorted, watery reflections on Victoria's face, reminding me of the day of my brother's accident, how she had watched him plead for help in the rain, then turned and walked away. On the day Hawthorne Corp was liquidated, I stood in the office that once belonged to her. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, workers were dismantling her giant billboard. In the photo, she was wearing a Chanel suit, her hand on Julian Jenkins's shoulder, smiling like a queen. Now the poster flapped loudly in the wind, a tear across her face perfectly revealing a sticker of my brother's race car underneath. "Mr. Clark, this was what Miss Hawthorne kept hidden in her safe." David Miller handed me a wooden box. Inside were 2 abortion clinic receipts, dated from the 2nd year of our marriage up to this year. There's also a letter, addressed to Julian Jenkins. The stationery exuded a faint rose perfume, her favorite diptyque. "Julian, once we bring down Sincere, we'll go to Australia. The baby I lost last time. We'll have more. You said you liked boys, we'll have 3 like the 3 golden retrievers you had as a child. Ha! What a beautiful wish." I tossed the letter into the shredder, watching those sweet nothings turn into snowflake-like scraps of paper. A loud crash came from outside. Her giant poster finally fell, revealing a brand new billboard. My brother's race car sped along the track, the number EEG-01 on its body exceptionally striking his initials. On visiting day at the detention center, I brought the divorce papers. Victoria stared at the official stamp on them and suddenly asked, "That race car, is it really fixed? Are you very disappointed?" I felt the keys in my pocket, the keychain, forged from fragments of the race car, pressed against my palm. "The engineer said your nail polish is still embedded in the carbon fiber of the chassis, red just like the color you wore the day you smashed the car." Her fingertips suddenly trembled, and large tears fell onto the divorce papers. "Sincere, I'm sorry, I regret it. At the racetrack that year, I didn't actually want to harm your brother. It was because he said he would expose the evidence of my father's embezzlement and the Hawthorne family's shady dealings all these years. I acted on impulse." "Enough," I cut her off. "The last message my brother sent me before he died was a photo." I took out my phone. On the screen was my brother, standing next to his race car, holding 2 cruise tickets. He said that after this race he would take me abroad, to see the ocean where our parents had their accident, to tell them he had taken good care of me. She suddenly started pounding wildly on the iron bars. "It was Julian Jenkins," he clouded my judgment, "incited me to do those things. You know I used to love you the most, Sincere." I stood up, straightened my tie, my voice icy. "Too late. From now on, I'm going to make you taste everything: power, betrayal, love, despair." At the door, I turned back. "Oh, by the way, Julian Jenkins had his right hand broken in prison. He'll never be able to grip a steering wheel again, just like he broke my car's steering wheel." Chapter 10. On the eve of the new National Racing Championship, I stood in the pit area, looking at my brother's race car, now fully restored. A mechanic was adjusting the steering wheel when he suddenly pointed at the dashboard and exclaimed, "Mr. Clark, there's a photo here." It was a yellowed Polaroid. My brother had his arm around a 17-year-old me. Behind us was our first race car. His face was scraped, but he was smiling like the sun. "Sincere, from now on you'll be my navigator." On the back of the photo, in his handwriting, "To my little moon, may you always shine on the racetrack." The track lights came on one by one, making the car's silver paint glitter. I put on my helmet, my fingertips brushing over the dents on the steering wheel. They were from when Victoria smashed the car. Now these marks had been incorporated into a special coating, sparkling like stars under the lights. As the engine roared to life, I suddenly remembered Victoria's last words at the detention center. "Sincere, I'm the only one in this world who loves you the most. I was the one who taught you how to love." The referee's countdown crackled through the communicator in my helmet. I smirked. Love? My brother's car, the wind on the track, the cheers of the crowd, isn't that a more fervent love? At the awards ceremony, as champagne sprayed into the night sky, I saw a familiar figure in the stands. Victoria was wearing a plain white shirt, standing at the edge of the crowd, no makeup on her face, her hair simply tied back. Our eyes met. She held up her phone. On the screen was the poster of my brother's race car. I turned to face the cameras, raising the trophy. In the flash of the cameras, I heard a faint voice from behind me. Sincere, I'm sorry, but the cheers were too loud. The words scattered in the wind, like all the I love yous she had once said, eventually vanishing with time. At the post-race celebration party, David Miller handed me a document. Ms. Hawthorne has applied for medical parole from prison. She has terminal uterine cancer. I leafed through the diagnosis, remembering the abortion receipts and medical reports she had hidden in her safe. It suddenly felt ironic. The things she had desperately tried to hold on to, she had long since destroyed with her own hands. The racetrack was exceptionally quiet late at night. I sat in my race car, opening the photo album on my phone. The last photo was of Victoria on the rooftop of Hawthorne Corp, wearing my favorite racing suit, making a peace sign at the camera. I had taken it the day she regained control of Hawthorne Corp. Now, the smile in the photo overlapped with the despair on her face in the detention center, and I felt a momentary daze. The moment the key turned, the engine's roar tore through the night sky. The car shot off like an arrow loosed from a bow, the wind whistling in my ears like my brother's laughter years ago. Those nights of betrayal, the smashed race car, the betrayed trust all gradually disappeared behind me. The track stretched endlessly ahead, and I knew that some roads are destined to be traveled alone. Victoria Hawthorne and Julian Jenkins's story would eventually become a few small lines in the financial news or idle gossip among inmates. But the marks on the racetrack will always remain, like the light my brother left in my life, never to be extinguished. And their playing with fire and getting burned was nothing more than two fleeting sparks in this long revenge, not even leaving ashes behind.